Hello, welcome to Hammer and Dice. Today we'll be looking at TOME by Adam Vass and published by World Champ Game Company. This zine contains a collection of system-agnostic resources for fantasy role-playing games, and what that means is there are 31 different bits of art, articles, little adventures, little bits of things you can put into your role-playing games, each of which is based off a prompt from the 2018 edition of Inktober. I think there's a bit of controversy around Inktober right now, but that's beside the point. All of these are system agnostic, so they can be used for any role-playing game, but where they do refer to statistics and things, as it says here, they are based off the common 6 fancy RPG attributes and HP and armor class workers in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So with a little bit of working, it can be used for any fantasy role-playing game that follows in that tradition. So I'm just going to go through and pick out a few different bits and pieces that I like, but I'm going to start by saying I really like how this scene feels. It's not often you can say that, but the cover of this scene is really nice and the pages are quite heavy. The layout and design of it is also really lovely. Lots of little bits of art and maps and things scattered throughout, and overall it's just really nicely put together. So well done to everyone involved. So the best place to start is at the beginning. So here we have a D6 table of poisons and effects, followed by a D8 table of how to deliver them. These are all unique and quite interesting, so I'm just going to roll one up now. 1, start from the beginning. Desert air. Shortly after contact you become parched. Your tongue feels tacky, your eyes and nose itch. After 1 day, skin begins to dry and crack. Signs appear of a developing fever. After 2 days, you have an insatiable and unquenchable thirst. Cracks in your dry skin turn an ashy grey and burn when touched. By day 3, you are at an increased risk of spontaneous combustion, exacerbated by exposure to dry and hot climates. If not solved by day 5, you will immolate. So that's quite a nasty way to go, and that could be delivered to you. 7, a smoke cloud through a cracked window. So you can imagine a little puff of dry desert air cloud puff through an open window to poison a target, and they slowly suffer over days and eventually immolate if not cured. The third prompt is roasted, which has been used for the Crimson Kin, the Duichi, which are a rural cannibal tribe to drop into your setting. So the backstory of Duichi is that in the days of hunter-gatherers, they lost a battle against a red wormling and had to turn to cannibalism to survive. Because of this, they have become followers of that dragon as it has grown over the years. So the different generations of the tribe started to worship it over time, and now in honor of their past they commit cannibalism as part of worship to this dragon, but are hidden from society and live out amongst the wilds in the dragon's territory. So there's several prompts here of how to include them into your game, which starts with an innocent person working on behalf of the tribe trying to lure the party, the Duichi themselves kidnapping or attacking the party, or even a defecting member of the Duichi coming to seek aid. The 9th prompt here is for Precious, which is a low-level magic jewelry generator, so I'll just roll one up now. 5, 6, 1, and then I'll re-roll it in the end for the result. 2. Zavita's Redolent Amulet, which grants the wearer resistance to a relevant type of damage while worn. So that's a quick way to come up with a unique piece of magic jewelry at the table, which has a good variety of effects so that you can apply to it there. Prompt number 10 is Flowing, which is for Beyond the Waterfall. This is a small little adventure location behind a flowing waterfall. It is long abandoned, and the only ways to get into it are through this waterfall here or through this underground watery chamber here. So at the top here there's the main lair and living quarters of a wizard who is using this as their secret base, with a hidden entrance to a lower laboratory which is now infested by mold golems and rotting spores, and then the secret exit entrance here, which can also be used if the way of getting in the main entrance is blocked. Prompt number 12 is Whale, and here we have the adventure location, the Innards, which is the innards of this gigantic whale creature, which you could find washed on the shores of any fantasy location. There are different ways you get into it, such as through the mouth, through the gills, or perhaps even from the other end entirely. Different ways you can pass through it, with the goal of harvesting fulminating gold from the third pancreas, so you've got to pass through the entire thing to get there, facing all the threats you'd expect to find in a giant decaying whale carcass, such as parasites, acids, perhaps even other adventurers looking for the same prize as you. Problem number 13 is Guardians, and this is for Blood Eaters and their lower guardians, which are creative elite guards that protect a tower. They also provide a spectacle for the locals as they change the guards 3 times a day, and it's quite a sight to behold. These guards are called the Blood Eaters, but they're not the true Blood Eaters. The true Blood Eaters are these giant birds which circle the tower and feed on, as you might have guessed, blood. The tower was originally to control the population of these birds and to stop them from feeding on the locals. These days they're fed animal blood, although they have been fed criminals and prisoners when times are harder. Problem number 18 is bottle, for a bottle episode. So a bottle episode in television is when the entire episode happens in one place. So the idea here is with your gaming session, it all takes place in one room. With this, it is a prison cell, and you share the prison cell with a tramp, and they're asking you questions, so it's an opportunity for your characters to roleplay with each other. I'm not a big fan of imprisoning your players and taking away their agency. With this particular setup, it is for a means to an end, as there is some duplicity in the reason why they're there. So if you ask your players to play along with it, that might be a way to get them to not resist unnecessarily and to move the story forwards, but I would have a chat with them beforehand, as it's not for everyone. Prompt number 24 is chop, and with that comes the butcher, which is a NPC that you can use in your games. This NPC is Montoya Hellrud, who is a local butcher who is publicly known to be selling human flesh in her butcher shop. How your players react to that is up to them. Seemingly lots of the town's inhabitants are okay with it, and so there's some backstory here and then ways that you could include her into your game here. I think this is quite interesting because it does specify that the townsfolk, or at least some of the townsfolk, are okay with this character existing in whatever setting she's been placed in. So that might lead your players to have a few questions about what's going on, whether all the townsfolk are as happy with her practices, and what recourse of action the players could take. And then the final prompt, number 31, is slice, and this is for Underworld at Peace, a 5-faction underworld that you can put into any city that is currently at peace. So the actions of the players, who they interact with, where they are in the city, will definitely upset this balance, and with the bits of description you've got here, you can flesh those out yourself and then decide how they would react to what the players do. For instance, if the players have a run-in with oracles, who are meant to be the royal family's eyes on the ground, so if they're doing something that the royal family might not agree with, the oracles might try to bully them, extort them, maybe even imprison them, and then the different factions might see that as an opportunity to get the player characters on side, or likewise, the oracles might see the players putting the boot to petty criminals from the other areas, get them on board, and start to expand their own power. I think having the layout for 5 different factions that are currently at peace and the tension is high between them is a good place to start with your players if they are getting into underworld activities, so that they are the driving force behind any changes that happen, and allows them to have agency and change the status quo. So that is Tome by Adam Vass and published by World Champs Games Company. As I said, it's really beautiful to look at, lots of detail in all the different bits of writing. There's good art throughout it, such as that piece there really adds a bit of flavour to the Crimson Kin. So yeah, there we go. Thank you for watching.